Welcome to the Made2Homeschool Podcast. I'm Brandon, and my wife Brigitte and I are the founders of Made2Homeschool. In this episode, I got to sit down with our new friend Christie from One Blessed Mess. Christie's a fifth-year homeschooling mother to five, whose ages span from toddler to teenager. Christie and Derek, her husband, have been married for 15 years, and they reside on a peaceful stretch of property in the Midwest. Homeschooling was always in Christie's heart, but she struggled with feeling inadequate to provide the education she felt her children deserved. After 3 years of public school, she leaned into that still small voice, took a leap of faith, and they became a homeschool family. I got to learn a lot more in our conversation about Christie's homeschool journey and the heart she has to help other homeschoolers. Let's get into it. Christie, thank you so much for joining me today, for having this conversation, and for your time. I know that you are trying to do all the things at home, and it's a busy season for you. So I want to honor your time, but gosh, I'm excited to get into the questions.
Me too.
Can we just start with, how did your family arrive at homeschooling? Like, did you just know you were made to homeschool? Was it a process? How'd you guys end up there? How do you know it was the right thing for your family?
Well, for us in particular, I always had homeschooling in my heart. It was just something before we even had kids that my husband and I had discussed. And when it came time for my oldest to start kindergarten, I kind of got cold feet with it. I just didn't feel well equipped. I didn't feel adequate. And so we ended up putting my two oldest kids in public school. And they were in public school for 3 years. And I was up one night with my fourth baby, and I was nursing her, and I stumbled across some homeschooling YouTubers, and I started watching their vlogs and like their curriculum hauls and the reviews, and I began noticing a change inside of myself. And I truly believe God used those moments to bring me to a place where I believed I can do this. Like, I can really, truly do this and make this a reality for my family. And my husband was 100% on board right away. And so that following year, we pulled the kids from public school and we started. So we've been homeschooling since 2019, and we haven't looked back.
So 2019, you're 4 years in.
Yes.
Do you feel like you know what you're doing yet?
So I feel like we have settled into a good groove for our family, but I've noticed that every year has its own unique set of challenges. So when we started homeschooling, I had a toddler, but she's more of a kind of a laid back toddler, if there even is such a thing. But my son, who just turned 3, he's kind of a different story. So he's kind of thrown a wrench into our day to day. It's kind of always been, all right, let's try to get this in while Jack's napping, or this, it's just kind of been a little up in the air as far as schedule and routines and things. So every year has kind of had its own unique set of challenges. I've homeschooled having a newborn and taking time off and just really focusing on those newborn things instead of the book work and just being with my family. That was really special time. And then putting him in the wrap and doing our actual school day. Like, I have such fond memories of that. So I feel like every year I feel a little bit more confident, but at the same time, every year has its own set of challenges, if that makes sense.
100%. And one of the things that really attracted us to homeschooling and to the homeschool community in general is just this sense of the ability to have the freedom to customize the educational experience for your kids. We have seen that a lot of people, though, kind of find like this is their lane as far as like educational approach goes. Everybody's tends to be pretty mixed up, but do you feel like you know what yours is? Is that still evolving?
I feel like we've always been a little bit on the eclectic side, and I think that was one of the benefits of kind of doing some research before we started homeschooling. I didn't fall into a certain category. I just sort of piecemealed everything together, what I thought would be a good fit for my kids, just based off of, we know our kids more than anybody does. So I knew what their strengths and their weaknesses were. And so I knew what would kind of maybe work, which it's still, there's a level of trial and error, of course. You don't necessarily know if something is going to work right away. But I think that I kind of just pieced things together of things I saw that I liked, that I thought would work well for my kids. And so I've never really subscribed to one sort of homeschooling category. It's more of like an eclectic approach, but I do love things from all of the different categories. There's things from unschooling that I just absolutely love. There's things from Charlotte Mason that I absolutely love, which I would say we're probably like 75% Charlotte Mason homeschoolers. But yeah, there's just things from everything I think that we could borrow and make our homeschooling experience richer.
And we know you're one of the newest contributors to Made2Homeschool, one of the newest members of the team. And I'm
Yes.
super excited about that. We've had
I'm excited. I'm so excited.
And I love that. See, I love that you're bringing excitement to it. And I want to ask you in a little bit, not yet, what that's about, what brought you into it, why you're excited. But one of the things that was really important to us, for me and Brigitte, and that I know is for you, that we got to talk about early on in our first conversation, was the importance of your faith to your family.
Yes.
And not just to like why you homeschool, but how you homeschool. And I know this is different for everybody, but would you share just a little bit about how you incorporate faith into your homeschool routine?
Absolutely. I think for us, there isn't a curriculum or a method of teaching our children the Bible more than our example. And I think that that is such an important thing to not only incorporate your faith in your homeschool day, but just in the day-to-day activities with your children and them seeing you separately from them, even strengthening your relationship with God and talking to God, and just because it's all about relationships. So when they see us feeding our relationship with God in different ways, whatever that looks like, then they're going to see it as more of a real thing, as opposed to something mom and dad preached to me, but I'm not really seeing how this is real or how this applies to my life, So for us, my husband is especially really, really good about this. He'll bring things up in just everyday conversation and have real heart-to-heart talks with them. For example, a few weeks ago, I noticed that my kids had kind of sour attitudes during our homeschool day. And I told my husband about that. And, I was just kind of venting to him when he got home from work. And he's been a good listening ear to me, which is so nice to have that. But he ended up having a conversation with the kids, not to scold them, but he brought in Ecclesiastes, and he was just talking about how everything in life is so temporary. And like, instead of focusing on the negatives in the day to day, like maybe you don't feel like homeschooling in a certain day, or maybe you're not into this book that mom's having you read. So instead of having a sour attitude about it, why don't you look at it like, I get to spend this time with my mom. I'm going to be grown up before I even know it. Let's just focus on our togetherness, because every season is so fleeting. And I sometimes have to remind myself of that as a homeschooling mom. Sometimes I get caught up in, oh gosh, we're just stuck in a rut. And I get so caught up into the day-to-day grind that it almost becomes like I'm on a hamster wheel. But yeah, just knowing that that this is all so temporary, even the hard things, and the kids seeing us clinging to our faith, even in the hard times, I think is so important.
I love that too, Christy, because I was waiting for you to say, because I didn't know what you were about to say, but I was waiting for you to say he came in and heard about it and gave him a really stern lesson on obedience, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you got to obey, kids, right? But you didn't say that. You said something far deeper and cooler than I would think of off the bat. I love that. But that's the kind of thing that I find is really difficult, to be individualized and as intentional when your kids are so our kids, one of them is still in a Christian school. We've got one of them home. They'll both be home within a month now, and we'll be full-time total homeschoolers. Help us, please. But
you got this.
The Lord does, because I don't.
The Lord does.
But we're super excited, partially because
with his help, in parentheses, with his help.
Amen. But like, what we're really one of the things we're really excited about is being able to individualize our approach to everything, including discipline, like you're
Yeah.
talking about your husband did with that example, because, and you've had it, like you had your kids in public school. There's so much of the like, okay, kids home, feed them, bathe them, brush teeth, get them in bed. Like it's,
Yes.
and you've
Yes.
kind of just got to do this. And I love that you have the opportunity to have the relationship with your kids and the time with your kids where you can have that conversation about, hey, let's look at Ecclesiastes and what is, and be Socratic about it, I guess, for lack of a better
Mhm.
explanation. And I love that you guys are intentional together with your
Yeah.
kids, and that can be super hard. How does that work with your YouTube time historically? Because like, okay, you're on YouTube and Instagram, you've got social media influence, or and even more importantly, can we go back and how did you end up starting your YouTube journey while homeschooling? Tell me about that.
So I talked to my husband about it and I was just like, I love what these moms are doing. And honestly, like one of the first moms that I was watching was Julie from Mama to Five, who is also in Made to Homeschool. I love seeing her here. She was such a huge influence on me. I just loved her demeanor towards her children and the way that she was bringing them up. It was so inspiring. And I just, sometimes you look at people and you're just like, not that I want to be them, but there are things about them that you were just like, I want to be more like that, And these women were so inspiring to me. And I noticed me as a mom of two public school kids, one who was going to be going into public school. I was just like, I'm stressed out. I'm short with my children. Like there were all of these lists of things that I could not figure out what was going on. Why was I so stressed out? Like, what is the deal here? And so when we decided to homeschool, I told my husband, I was like, how cool would it be if we documented this journey? And maybe out there is a mom who's nursing her child and just flipping through YouTube in the middle of the night. And maybe she can see the realness of this journey and what it looks like, the good, the bad, the ugly, because I never did want to be inauthentic about it. I never wanted to be like, yeah, we're homeschooling, so look at us. Now we're perfect. Like I wanted to be real about it, about the fact that I was a newbie and I knew nothing. And this is just what it looks like, guys. Like we're just diving into this. And so yeah, that's how it started. So I started my YouTube channel actually in June of 2019. So it was a couple months before we officially started homeschooling. And I shared about just myself and like our story and my testimony and also what we were going to be using for the upcoming school year. And then I started bringing everybody along with us on our actual homeschooling days. And it just sort of evolved from there. I never imagined in a million years that 18,000 people would be watching it, but here we are. And I know that's still small in the YouTube sphere, but it's way more than I ever imagined. And I love every single one of my subscribers. They're amazing,
I didn't
amazing women.
I didn't
They
realize
really
when you started. Yeah, so Brigitte, my wife, she has like a mom channel,
are. Mhm.
and she started June of 2019 as well,
Oh,
right
that's awesome.
after our last one was born.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a next baby itch. I don't know. But okay, so you said how many people you've got following you on YouTube? A little over 18,000, which in the grand scheme, no, it's not gigantic. But in the homeschool world, it is because I know homeschool families give their time
Mhm.
and their watch time, I'd say, even more specifically, very carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very intentional about where they spend their time, especially since the majority of your day's taken up. You're bringing up a generation of children. I mean, that is no light load right there. So I think that is, yeah, it says a lot when people take the time to watch your content and to engage. And like today I had a video that went out where I was asking people for advice because I'm stumped on something, and I love that we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other and just hold one another up in the good times and the bad times. I think that's what community is all about.
And I heard you saying that when we first talked about you joining the team,
Yes.
you shared that thing that we have in our heart to have real community as much as you can online.
Mm.
And I think it's because I know, I really believe it's because you care about these folks, these moms primarily, right, who are following you on YouTube, and you want to be able to help them as much as you can without burning yourself. But they're following you for a reason, right? You just said it, I just said it. Homeschool families are picky about who they watch, about who they give their
Hmm.
time to. What do you think it is about what you do, or about your family, or about you as a homeschool mom and creator that makes people tune in? Why do you think they care to spend their time with you?
I, I ask myself this because I don't feel like I'm anything special. Like I really don't. Like when you look at my life as a whole, like I live a pretty vanilla, non-exciting life. It just isn't very exciting. But I think that one of my goals when I started my channel was that I didn't want to shy away from who I really am and talking about hard things. Some of those hard things being things like anxiety or OCD or postpartum depression or things that I have gone through and I went through real time on my channel, and people have been with me there in those really dark times, those trenches, and how I have sort of molded our homeschool around those moments and what that looked like in my family. And I think that everybody's got a story and everybody's got their own unique set of circumstances. And as YouTubing homeschooling moms, I think it's easy to want to portray. You want to portray like you have it all together and you have all the answers. And, oh, look, I have my kids perfectly under control. Look at how perfect they are and how perfect my family is. But that's just not the reality. Everybody's got their stuff. And I think people want real. I think people crave realness and authenticity. And I just hope that that's what I bring to the table on my channel. And I hope that there are women out there that can be encouraged just by my journey.
I love that. Speaking of the real, right? Now, you've said a couple times one of the things you didn't want to do was, well, I'm paraphrasing, but you didn't want to fluff, basically, right? Like you
Mm-mm.
didn't want people to think you really had it all together.
No.
So let's talk about what's real. You've been 4 years into this thing.
Yes.
What has been your greatest hurdle? What has just been the absolute hardest for you
Oh my goodness. Like this year in
at all in four
specifically?
years of homeschooling?
Okay. I think my biggest hurdle was not taking personally when a day didn't go well
Mm,
and feeling like I'm a failure because maybe a child is struggling with something, or maybe they have a bad attitude about something, or maybe I was stressed out and yelling a little bit too much, or, like just that has probably been my biggest thing because I do tend to struggle with feeling and being scared of failing, which is one of the major reasons why I didn't start homeschooling in the beginning. I was really scared of failing my kids because none of us want to fail our kids. But it is like a real fear and hurdle for me. And so not taking personally those moments, knowing that, okay, so we had a bad day. It doesn't mean this is a hard life. It doesn't mean we're not doing what God has called us to do. Because in reality, the hardest things in life are the best things in life. You have to work the hardest at the things that are the most worth it. And it's going to hurt and it's going to stretch you and it's not going to feel good sometimes. And you're going to question everything at moments, but it's all so worth it in the end. I mean, I've heard so many testimonies of homeschooling moms who have gone through some of the same struggles we all go through in the day to day, who come out the other side and have very successful graduates at the end of all of this. And so it is just important to keep, I think, that long-term goal in front of us. And yeah, that's probably been my biggest struggle. That and math. Math is always my big struggle. Yeah. I finding that curriculum, man, that just I feel good about and my kids are thriving in. It's been, yeah.
You just made me think of like a bunch of questions I want to know answers to. Okay, first, I'm trying to take notes so I don't lose them. But first one, you said at the beginning of that response, trying not to take it personally.
Yeah.
And you expounded on what about the bad days. But
Hmm.
why would you take that? Why would one take that personally?
I guess it's because I feel like if my kid is struggling, it's because of something I'm doing wrong. And so, which is a total lie. I
Because you would
mean,
never
there
say
are
that to another parent, would you?
right, exactly. And it's not, and we could all grow in areas of parenting and teaching our children. I mean, as a homeschooling parent, you're never going to have all the answers. And sometimes it's important to maybe give the reins to somebody else, which is why I, have other people teaching math and whatnot to my children, because I know that's a weakness of mine. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I think as moms, we take it so personally when our child is struggling because we feel responsible for their whole well-being, when in reality it's so important for our children to struggle at points in life, because not struggling is going to create very dysfunctional adults who don't know how to work through conflict and hard times. So reminding myself of that has been definitely a struggle, because none of us like to see our kids struggle. So
No, but that'll preach. And I think that I'm sure there's other good stuff coming out of here. But man, I think if more parents could just hear that
yeah,
and then
I agree.
actually internalize it.
Agreed. I think that too, we live in a society that makes everything so streamlined and easy that we start to think or believe that life is just supposed to be easy and that there aren't going to be things that we have to work hard at or struggle through sometimes. And those are one of those things. That's why I'm not quick to quit a curriculum if I feel like a child is having a hard time, because I want them to try. That's the only thing I ask them to do. I don't ask them to be perfect or get 100% all the time. I just ask them to try their best. And please just give it your all. And that's all I'm asking. And I'm here to help you through it. But yeah, I think that's one of those things I have to remind myself as a mom, like this isn't about you. This has nothing to do with you. This is something you're just helping your child through.
Homeschooling's hard.
It is.
What's your why? What keeps you going in those days where you are prone to blame yourself for difficulties or failures sometimes? What's your why, Christy?
My why is those relationships. I think that when we started homeschooling, I focused a lot on just giving my kids like a robust education. I was so excited about doing this, this, and this, and like all of these things. But what I have realized throughout the years is having that closeness with my children, I would not trade for the world at this point. Being able to be there for all of the things, all those light bulb moments, all of the bad times as well as the good. I think that our children are so vulnerable, and for them to have their parents right there with them, like walking alongside them in this life, is just something very rare and so important. And I couldn't imagine going back at this point, even in those hard days where I do fantasize about putting my kids in public school because it happens.
What would you say, to a mom who's considering it, or a family, dad who's considering they want to homeschool, they're afraid to. They're listening to this podcast and they just heard you process some of what your difficulties have been. What would you say to them?
I would say that if God is putting that on your heart, if you're feeling that nudging from the Lord, it isn't for no reason. And that He is going to be faithful and give you so much grace in the journey. And you might think that you're ill-equipped to teach your children, and you would be right. We all are. I'm ill-equipped to be a mom, for crying out loud, let alone teach my children. So God's grace is sufficient in all things, in all areas, and you are going to grow even more so than your children. You're going to watch your children grow, but you're going to grow in so many ways that you never thought possible. And God is there to grow your patience, grow your skill level. There are things I'm learning right alongside my kids. I don't remember learning them in school, like sentence diagramming. What's that even? So I've had to learn that. Yeah, right. Like lines and then once I learned it, I was like, whoa, this makes sense. This helps me understand sentence structure. Like I get it now. So it's just there are little things, but there are also big things that happen when you make that decision to homeschool. And I'm not one of those homeschooling moms that's like, it's for everybody. Everybody should homeschool. Pull your kids out right now and homeschool. I think that there are definitely circumstances and reasons why parents maybe shouldn't homeschool. I don't think that every family should have their children home with them. I'm thinking more along the lines of, very dysfunctional situations and
Sure.
circumstances. But I do believe that if God is calling you to homeschool, that if you take that plunge and you rely on Him, He will be there. He will be there every step of the way, for sure.
So that's an encouraging message. Let's continue with the encouragement because we already asked about what the biggest hurdle was. What in your 4 years of homeschooling, what's been the greatest unexpected blessing you've had as a family from it?
Oh man, the greatest unexpected blessing I would say is, like I was saying before, that relationship with my kids, that closeness with my kids, being able, now that I have a teenager and I have a preteen, and as they're getting into those years where they don't really want to like have anything to do with mom, that's a stereotype anyway. I'm not finding that with my teenager. My teenager likes to talk to me. She likes to be around me, and I like being around her. And it's different. It
That's
looks
so good.
different. It's so countercultural. So yeah, I think that just enjoying the presence of my children, not saying that we don't all need a break from time to time, because we absolutely do. They need a break from me just as much as I need a break from them. But knowing my children inside and out and getting to connect with them on a deeper level than just seeing them for a few hours out of the day and not really knowing what's going on in their lives has been the biggest blessing.
I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire things in just a minute
Sure.
here, but I want to come back to something you said. You said math is hard. It was almost your biggest hurdle, but it wasn't. Were you just talking about curriculum selection or is it like certain ages for you? What's the difficulty with math?
I think that I always struggled with math curriculum from the get go. Like, even with my kindergartner, I was always questioning, like, is this going to be enough? And we've tried, I feel like, everything at this point, almost everything. But I think we finally settled into something, and being able to, have somebody else teach it for me with utilizing video lessons and things like that has been huge game changer in my homeschool. Shout out to Nicole, the math lady. Yeah, so it's that has definitely helped lighten the load. And I think it's important for parents too. If there's like an area that you are questioning like your abilities, there are so many resources out there. This isn't like the 1980s anymore where you have one curriculum company and like, no, there's so many resources out there. You are bound to find something that works for your family.
Okay, shifting gears into some quick questions, Christy. Why'd you join the team at Made2Homeschool?
I wanted that community, and I wanted that community where I was able to engage with people on a deeper level. My YouTube channel, I feel like I love engaging with everybody who comments on my posts and who on Instagram comments on my stories or whatever. But this is a way to kind of get to know everybody a little bit better and to really feel like you're having a real discussion with them as opposed to replying to a comment here and there. I feel like, too, I love that there are resources available, so many resources. I need the resources. So, from women that I trust and I know are doing just a spectacular job in their homeschools. So, I think it's just a wealth of information.
You know what's funny is what you just said was, and I love hearing it, your response is, well, I joined it because of the benefits I myself am going to get out of it. And I love that. I love hearing that because you're part of the team. And there's other reasons you could say for joining it, but you're like, no, I see the value in it. That's what I want it to
Yes.
be. Well,
Oh, like some of the like printouts that you can do and the workshops. I mean, it's just amazing. Like the transcript, I'm going to watch that high school transcript one because that was one of those things that was stressing me out about high school coming up in a few years here. I'm like, I'm going to have to, because I don't record keep at all right now. I don't have to. So I'm like, oh gosh, she's not going to be able to graduate, So being able to like see women that have been there and know what it's like and them to give us those that expertise is it's invaluable. It's awesome.
Yeah, and Amy from Humility and Doxology, who just hosted that workshop a couple weeks ago, it's up there now in the workshop archives. I'll tell you, she brought a lot in that. There were many slides with lots of dense information. So
True Amy fashion. She's very thorough.
That's how she do. Yes. Okay, so that's why you joined. You've only been in for a short time, right? So we're recording this 2 weeks after you officially joined the team, I think, right? So I don't know what your answer to this is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you seen something in there so far that you're like, wow, I love that. That shows why I'm here, or that like an interaction in the community?
Yeah, there have been actually quite a few that I've seen, especially the prayer requests. I love that. And this has always been my heart, like even with my YouTube channel, like I just have such a heart for moms who are going through it and just need to know they're not alone. And I love that that community is there for these women, and people are really truly praying. There is one woman in there right now whose mom is going through cancer, and being able to communicate with her, because I have gone through the same thing with my mom. So being able to connect with her on that level and just know what she's going through is, yeah, that's just huge to me.
Yeah, we always wanted it to be something that would offer so much value as community first, but with everything else too, that the people who were on the team, like yourself, would want to be there even if they weren't on the team. So I actually was afraid asking something like, oh, she hasn't been in there that long. I don't know. No, that was, thank you. I'm glad you're seeing that. Like there's so much happening I don't get to see. And I built the thing. Like it's wonderful. I love that. So that's your favorite thing you've seen so far. What about what you're contributing? And I know we're just getting started there, but what are you most excited to do as part of the team that leads that community?
What I hope to bring to the table is the encouragement that you can find on my channel, but I want it to be in a more like maybe concise way, because on my channel, I just sort of talk about, whatever topic is on my heart. I love that with Made2Homeschool too. It is kind of like seasonal too. There's like some seasonal things, like my article that's coming out in December is all about simplifying your homeschool around Christmas time. And so that's something to me that I've learned in my homeschool that I'm so excited to share with other families who might be feeling the stress of trying to get all of the things done, because homeschool looks different in different parts of the year. So I love how there's something every month to look forward to that might, apply to that season of homeschooling. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I love that you already had a specific answer. That's cool. But, one thing that I heard, and you could tell me I'm wrong, I think this is correct, from Wendy, is that you guys are going to tag team and do like a live hangout thing.
We are. Okay. She convinced me. She said she would be there with me. I'm still so scared, but I think it'll be good.
It's going to be great. I really love the live hangouts because people just get to like be.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
No.
And you would think I would be more gung-ho about that, because that's my jam. I love that. But I don't know what it is. It's like, I think I'm so used to being able to edit out stuff in my videos and whatnot. I'm just like, oh, live. I don't know about that, but I think it'll be good.
I think it'll be wonderful. Honestly, if you see Wendy do one, or anybody else, like, and if you're listening and you're not looking at this, you need to know, in Made2Homeschool, if you join a live event, we are all used to small children running into the frame begging for something. We are very much used to screaming because somebody's brother may or may not have hit them first. We don't know.
And we'll never know.
We'll never know. I mean, the world may
I'll never know.
No, nobody's going to know. But that's reality, right? It's what you were talking about before, about just giving people what's honest. And I know that, we talked about doing the live thing, and I know that's not like easy necessarily, but what I love is that your desire to give that, to let people know you are, though blessed, you are a mess. It's okay, right? I think that's really valuable, and I think that's what people need.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
You for being consistent and being willing to do that. I'm going to give you a last question. Well, I get two, but second to last. What do you think is your biggest hot take or unpopular opinion about homeschool?
Oh my goodness. I guess circling back to what I said before, I am not one of those homeschooling parents that thinks that it's the choice for everybody. I think it's important to remember that there are people out there that have to make different decisions. And that doesn't mean that they're a lesser parent or that they're doing the wrong thing, because they know their child and they love their child. And so, I will always support public schools. I'm not anti-public school. I have teacher friends whom I love and support very, very much. I think it's important as homeschoolers that we give that love and care to public school teachers who still have a lot of children that they are caring for and teaching for on a daily basis. So I guess that's kind of a hot take. It's been a source of, I've had some people like on my Instagram who think that I'm anti-public school just because I'm so passionate about homeschooling, and I have to correct them and be like, no, I'm not. I am not anti-public school by any means. I think that it's an important thing that we still need to support even as homeschoolers, because there's so many children that rely on it. So, but I do feel that if God's calling you to homeschooling, that it's important to answer that call, and that if you're scared about that, then He is sufficient to be able to walk you through that. And even if it's hard. So that's kind of my hot take, I guess.
No, I love that. I think that it's funny that in this homeschool community, for lack of better, because it's so diverse.
It is.
But one of the things that unifies people is that they really believe there should be freedom in educational choices.
Yes.
And yet there's like this purity test. Oh, do you really like? Well, no, listen, you can make other choices, man. It's okay. But coming back to what you just said, the whole, like, what we do was named based off of that principle that, like, hey, if you feel like God was calling you to this, you were made for it.
Yeah.
You were made to homeschool. You can do it. And we want people to know that. Christy, thank you so much for your time to do this today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been awesome. Can you just tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can go ahead and find me on my YouTube channel, One Blessed Mess, because I'm blessed, but I'm also kind of a mess. And join me over there and be messy with me. And my Instagram is One Blessed Mess as well. You'll find me under my name, Christy Crawford, over there. So
Christy Crawford.
And also Made2Homeschool. I guess I should remember to say that.
So I mean, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's new. It's good.
Trying to get used to saying it now.
I love that
I
so
have to
much.
say it, yes.
I gotta tell you, and if you're listening, you don't know Christy, and you haven't seen any of her content yet, from the very beginning, early on, in like the first month of talks, like January, February 2023, people were saying, oh, we got to get Christy on the team.
Oh.
So, and I've come now to understand why. I'm so excited it came around and happened. If you don't know Christy, go check her out. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening today. And we hope to see you at Made2Homeschool.